I'm back with John Reeves, and this time, well, he must have a lot to say because I've just discovered, we discovered yesterday, wasn't it? The government so generously have decided to allow us to have a subsidised transport system. Well, they're going to continue it. So what's your thoughts, John?
Well, Max, I have a lot to say about the Labour Party and the government, which promised to be so transformational but hasn't really delivered much. This is one thing I actually agree with them, half-price public transport fares, because in New Zealand, we actually have some of the highest public transport fares in the OECD countries. We're higher than Sydney and many other places.
Is that right? I agree. We're one of the highest ones.
Yep.
Wow.
So I agree with reducing to half price, but rather than just till January next year, I would say this needs to be permanent because we've got to actually reconfigure the pricing structure of public transport to make it really good for the public to use. But of course, you also need to have the services. So many cases, the public transport services are lousy. Now, take somewhere like, for example, take provincial areas like Kaikoui or Kirikiri. Their public transport services are 2 intercity buses a day to Whangarei and Auckland. Other than that, twice a week, there's a bus that connects Kirikiri to Kaikoui. And that's it, twice a week. So even if it's half price...
John, can I take you to task on this? You want the rest of the population to subsidise and pay for those people that want to use a bus. And do you realise that also that the cost of running a bus, which is generally, diesel, has gone up 30%. So diesel's gone up 30% in the last, quarter? So that's the last 3 months.
But do you realise, Max, to counter your point...
give away more of our money.
To counter your point, Max, you realise that all of the country, including provincial New Zealand, are paying high fuel taxes on their fuel they're using. So why not giving something back to the regions as well? It's not all about Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch. Actually, there's people in many parts of New Zealand who have no option but to drive. And if there is a public transport service, it's once a day or once every 3 days when you take the Kaikoui to Kirikiri example.
So the provincials will be using more diesel than it would be down here. So they're polluting the air.
They are subsidising the people of Ponsonby. They're subsidising the people of Ponsonby, the grey linners who vote Labour, and basically they're paying for it. All provinces of New Zealand are paying for the half-price transport in the city.
So why not give some back? Use public transport, John?
Pardon?
What proportion of our population use public transport?
Gosh, look, I don't have the figures off the top of my head.
Like 15% or 20%?
It's going to be different in every city. I mean, for example, Christchurch, it's pathetically low compared to, say, Wellington, and even Auckland's better than Christchurch. And then if you go to somewhere like Rotorua, it's pretty low as well. Go to somewhere like Kirikiri, non-existent because there's just no services being offered. So do half-price fares, but they should also add it onto the intercity coach network so all rural New Zealand can use intercity buses for half price, and also therefore getting something back for the taxes they're paying on the fuel they buy. And also start implementing better public transport in the provinces because it's not all the city folk. And as we've learned from COVID, people are moving out of the cities to live in the provinces.
Well, as a boy that came from rural Taranaki, I got to say, as a boy, we were on those buses quite a lot. And it was great to be able to go and visit somebody in Palmerston, North Wellington. It was a long journey, but it was nice to know that it was always there. And I'm not sure they're there anymore.
Well,
I'm pretty sure
now between, say, the area you lived in, Taranaki, to Palmerston North, it's once a day. It's pretty substandard compared to what it was when it was run by the New Zealand Railways Road Services. So more infrastructure, continue the half-price fare, and roll it out to intercity services so the regions and provinces can also benefit after paying all the tax on diesel and petrol, which they do.
Righto, John. That's John Reeves. He's going to come back next week with more riveting information about our transport system.